Hey everybody, Jason Burmis here, and we've got a very special broadcast. Yes, the Conspiracy Farm crew is joining me. We got both Pat Miletich, thank you for joining us, Pat, and of course Jeffrey Wilson. They're both on the Google Hangouts line, so they're going to be going back and forth. If you are not familiar with the Conspiracy Farm, you need to immediately go follow them on Twitter and check out theconspiracyfarm.com. It's I'm Jeffrey Wilson on Twitter and at Pat Miletich. That's how you can follow both of these gentlemen. Guys, how are you? How's everybody doing? Less than 2 months away from the madness, this election coming up.
Jeff, go ahead.
I'm doing well, man. Every day above ground's a good day, and without even, I'm serious. I say that almost ad nauseum all the time, but now with the chaos going on, I mean, it's something I really, I definitely feel, man. Just living in the moment, trying to enjoy all of this, and just trying to stay out of my own head and not break my arm, patting ourselves on the back and all the shit that we've said that's coming down, that is absolutely going down right now. Yourself included, Burmis. Anybody who's kind of been in this world. So much is going down right now that we've been talking about for many years. It's frightening as fuck. And I do believe a part of the crescendo is going to be November 3rd in the elections. But, trying to hang on to my sanity, brother. Thanks for having me on.
Yeah, absolutely. And how about yourself, Pat? You said you're right in the middle of moving. You sold that lovely home that I was just at a couple months ago, I believe.
Yeah, buddy. Yeah, many months before this all happened, all this bullshit with COVID, the lockdown, the financial collapse, everything else. The financial collapse that, they're covering up with COVID and the transition into a new world order. I decided to put this house on the market because I knew some shit was coming down. I knew the economy was going to take a shit on us. And so I put it on the market. We finally sold it. We're going to close on it here in the next 3 weeks. And I've got a beautiful farmhouse picked out, 1890. Got three-car garage attached to it, a nice shed, and plenty of room for more buildings to put on the property, solar panels, got a well, going to put a chicken coop down there, and be prepared for any eventuality. Of course, the armory will be added to as well.
And I mean, it better be, Pat, because according to Joe Biden, by the time his speech was over yesterday, 200 million people have died of COVID-19. Does it blow your guys' mind that here we are, and it's not like a gaffe a week, it's not even a gaffe a day, it's if he talks more than 20 minutes in public, you got 5 or 6 golden moments that you can just point out, this guy couldn't run a Wendy's. That's why Trump jumped on that line earlier this week.
Come on, man. The thing.
The thing.
And the kid rubbed the hair down on my legs to watch it stand back up. And I know all about rats, and I like kids sitting on my lap.
It's embarrassing. It really is embarrassing.
What's embarrassing is the massive millions of Americans who will actually vote for that fucking
law. It is. It's weird.
I got 2 signs on my block, 2. I mean, dude. I've lost hope. That's why I'm coming out your way. We're less than, we're 10 days away from the move now, and we'll be out in Iowa. So got to get the big Penske truck and get in there. But we thought it would be a good idea, especially now with what's going on with Assange and WikiLeaks and all these stories that are kind of hidden from the media, to talk about some of the more downplayed stories of the last few years, if not just this year alone. And I thought I would kick it off, and then you guys are more than welcome to jump in with your next story, was the fact that the FBI actually released a bunch of documents on the finders this year that really, if you looked at the base documents, showed you that there was this group that did seem to be connected to intelligence during the 80s and 90s that was not only sexually abusing children by all evidence, but had this weird satanic ritual abuse aspect to it. And it was something that I had studied way back in the day in my InfoWars days. But for them to actually release the files and almost no media fanfare whatsoever, I'm showing you the Tallahassee Democrat that published it, what is your guys' take on this? Every time there seems to be a big story connecting either high-level politicians or government agencies to this type of behavior with children, it's almost nowhere to be seen in the media.
Well, it either tells you that, A, the media are, which we know, lapdogs, paid to protect the elites that abuse children, or B, A plus B included would be, or B, they're pedophiles themselves, or A plus B equals C, which, look, I'm not doubting that many in the media, the mainstream media, are, well, many of them were on the Lolita Express to Epstein's Island. So yeah, they're pedophiles too. So fuck those guys, you know?
I mean, that's the thing, that once we even begin to scratch the surface of how deep this goes and how it encompasses just, from politics to sports to entertainment, and, I hate to go back that far, but, Operation Mockingbird, the media is controlled. So they're not going to give us, all the truth that we necessarily want. But I mean, it's really crazy because it's so deep and so dark, and they prey on like the most vulnerable of us, which is children. And not only is there no accountability in that regard, you see mainstream outlets like a Netflix literally produce a show like Cuties, and people, it's just on its face. And this is just another one of those aspects we can, we've talked about it before, Burma's on and off air, how they've just inverted reality. How these fuckers, even out in California, everyone's trying to, not everyone, but people are trying to actually normalize pedophilia. I mean, and this is something, like you said, especially with that satanic ritual abuse aspect of it. Not to get too, but it's all like that dark energy, dark magic, preying on fuck. I mean, it's absolutely crazy. But, a couple years ago when we brought it up, whether Pizzagate was real or not, Pedogate's real. Getting into stories about like Johnny Gosh, where I'm from in Iowa and Des Moines. I mean, that story's crazy. His dad actually sold him into that shit. Now, if you want to come fucking sue me, Mr. Gosh, come at it so we can have a little deposition in court on how you sold your son into this shit. I mean, it's always, nothing is what it seems, and it's the level of darkness of it. And again, going back to the Pizzagate, how they, made it seem like a conspiracy theory. But when you watch movies like Conspiracy of Silence or Understanding of Boys Town, or see that Washington Times or Washington Post article, how callboy rings were given tours of the late night tours of the White House. This has been hidden in plain sight, man. And I'm glad actually now that more people are coming out, our boy Sam Tripoli or anybody who's involved with promoting this, Child Lives Matter. We need to really be having this conversation because it's not just, and that's the other thing. Kudos to Trump for rounding up these fucking rings, whether they're low level or not. I don't even give a fuck if it's some Q high perp walking Guantanamo Bay shit. Any child whose life is saved, I'm cool with that. But again, man, it goes so much deeper and darker than anybody could possibly realize. Not just the abduction and the trafficking, but like you mentioned, Burma, the dark magic aspect of it, the satanic ritualistic abuse of it. Crazy shit, man.
And that's what's really startling. Number one, just knowing people in prominence, when you look at how high Dennis Hassert got, and he was the Speaker of the House, and even this week getting revelations on the Weiner emails 4 years later, finally, the FBI agent that got a look at these things after the NYPD got a look and said, look, I wasn't even allowed to see 600,000 of these emails. You would have thought that the upper echelons would have wanted to get down here quick when somebody who works in child pornography for the FBI is telling them that they have this laptop with evidence against not only Weiner, but Hillary and Huma himself. He blows the whistle. It's still not a national story 4 years later. The Daily Mail is the only one that's even reporting on that. And again, you had to really look into the Inspector General report to even know how that went down. So I think it's so important to get your facts straight. And if you saw the thumbnail for that, the picture of the guy, he looks like he's going to cry. He put his name on the line. He's telling you about this. There were no criminal prosecutions. Again, when the guy that was running against Hillary Clinton was saying, I'm going to lock her up. Well, lock her up, he hasn't. And here we are in 2020, and we're asking the same questions. But this time, Weiner's out of jail, and he's getting into the private marijuana business. Oh, man.
Well, this is where citizens need to start taking things into their own hands, obviously, because nobody in the upper echelons of the FBI or anything like that, at least it's being blocked. A lot of stuff's being blocked. Whether they're protecting both sides, we don't know. I'm not 100% sure where Trump lies in all of this. I know that people are being arrested. Massive numbers of people are being arrested, and a lot of children are being saved. Hopefully, they're working their way up the ladder to those high value targets. But God, Jeff, how long ago was it? I printed off the IG report. I was reading. I highlighted it. I read through that whole thing and highlighted the most important bullet points in that thing. And we spent an hour and a half, 2 hours, where we were reading and talking about and breaking down that IG report. And it was very clear that there were some serious crimes going on that laptop. And yes, Hillary Clinton was implicated. For anybody that denies that, go and print it off yourself and read it yourself, man, because stop being in denial about all of this stuff. And yes, the hashtag Save Our Children, Save the Children, needs to keep going. And I would recommend and encourage, considering there's so many assholes out there burning buildings all over the country and destroying buildings and everything else. Hey, let's stop Operation Torch the fucking media. I'm not saying go and burn down CNN, but I'm saying, they need pressure on them. They need to get their asses chewed. They need to get confronted everywhere they are in public. How these Democrats were saying, confront them where they're eating, confront them out, and people were going after. Look, Rand Paul and a bunch of other politicians being harassed in Washington D.C., being attacked, cops surrounding them. These lunatics, when they were besieging the White House and all this other stuff. Hey, man, do that to the media. Do it to your local media that won't report it. Do it to CNN, Fox News. Do it to all of them. Confront their asses anywhere you see them. Airports, anything else. Get in their fucking face and tell them they're lying to the American people and start reporting on this shit.
I agree 1,000%. I think that is, that was kind of the We Are Change model back in the day, that the media was fair game, but they've kind of turned it on its head again. Now it's a partisan thing. And I thought that the irony of making or trying to make Rand Paul say her name, say Breonna Taylor's name, the motherfucker is the one that wrote the legislation, call the Breonna Taylor bill against no-knock warrants, and this mob is so uneducated and miseducated and misguided, they see Republican bad, and they want to hurt the guy that's trying to change the system, Jeffrey.
No, I'm with it. I mean, Pat said it many a times, and we've all kind of got it. We've said it over the course of years, but Pat's really echoed that. People's lack of information, ignorance, if you will, because that's what uninformed means, is going to be, we were saying this before, it's going to become very dangerous. And we're seeing that now. And now you package on top of that, or piggyback on top of that, people reacting, just being so reactive out of just emotions without having the information. People are dying. Where you look at freaking Kyle Rat-a-tat-tat Rittenhouse, you know what I mean? Like, he's having to take matters in his. I mean, things are spiraling out of control. And geez, we can get into it or not, but we're definitely going to do a show on it. November 3rd, it's coming quick. Both sides have already prepared to not accept the results. And, another show we need to do is something on the media. The media is so hugely fucking complicit right now. They've always done it in all these wars, whether it's 9/11, WMD, Gulf of Tonkin. They've always carried the water for the establishment and created these false narratives that, beautifully enough, the internet's around where shows like us can deconstruct this bullshit. But they literally are complicit to almost insurrection. I mean, when you start looking at the BLM shit, the all of that Antifa shit, there's no protest. This is all a myth, and releasing these people. Reality has definitely been inverted. And I know I kind of skirted it to the COVID thing, but it covers everything where we're dealing right now. The media is so fucking complicit in creating these insane false narratives that are just destroying lives and will continue to do so. And when you have people who are so fucking simple in their thought process that they're just willing to fall for the okie doke over and over again and almost emboldened, especially street soldiers or whatever you want to call them, that are getting arrested and then released and arrested and released, they're being emboldened to continue what they're doing. And obviously, there's a larger strategy to that, the whole Hegelian dialectic of problem, reaction, solution, or, the Latin phrase, order ab chaos. They want the chaos. They want the order, to bring order to the chaos that they created. But still, the media at the end of the day is very much so complicit in so much of this shit.
Yeah. And remember when we went to the Bentrup Library, Jeffrey, when the professors and media people, a board, what would we call it? A panel of experts on fake news, right? And these guys were all down the line with mainstream media, professors at the local universities. Their students all populated the room, and Jeffrey and I sat in the front of the room. And we started breaking things down, and I got up first and talked about, we gave examples down the line of a bunch of lies of the media. But right before we spoke, a couple of students, college kids, of course, pretty naive, but very convicted in their belief system because of the indoctrination that they're experiencing. We had one kid stand up and go, "What they're saying is the truth. The mainstream media is telling the truth." And he's like screaming it from the rooftops. And I get up and I go, "Hey, let's talk about the Gulf of Tonkin. And then let's talk about the weapons of mass destruction. And then let's talk about this." And then Jeff started adding, and we just started hammering away. And I kid you not, man, the entire panel basically said, Mr. Milicic and Mr. Wilson basically said, "You guys have very valid points, and you are correct." And that'll be the end of the panel for this evening. Thank you very much.
And then we had people coming up to us left and right, like, "Holy shit, dude, is that for real? For real?" But I mean, and that's just the live. I'm sorry. Go ahead, champ.
The elderly women coming up to us going, "Oh my God, I had no idea about all of this stuff. This is incredible. Oh my God, I need to look into this."
And that's just the library in Bettendorf, Iowa. I mean, we all understand that. I mean, we all get how complicit and how media has spun this shit for years and years and years. It's nothing's really new under the sun. What's really paramount is our complacency, or what is it? Our willing to be so complicit in echoing their narratives or following their narratives. Unfortunately, we could disagree on what happened on 9/11, not us here, but we've talked about it on the show, man. We've let this go for a long fucking time as to what's happening right now. And unfortunately, it started for a long time, but definitely after 9/11. We're going to surveil your shit. We could possibly detain you and assassinate you without due process. Hey, we're going to scan you. We're going to fucking basically physically assault you as you get on this plane. But because of this invisible threat that we were convinced exists, yes, Islamic fundamentalism does exist, but it's no more. Anyway, we started being lulled into these things we were willing to give up. And as we say all the time, the social engineers, the globalists, they think in decades, man. They think in generations. So here they are 20 years later, finding out once again what they can get away with to fight this invisible enemy, your mask, eventually your vaccine. This is ultimately long-term down the road, ladies and gentlemen. China is the model for basically this social credit score. Oh, you don't have a mask? You can't shop here. Your kids can't go to school here. I mean, again, we have to share some measure of blame in allowing this shit to go down. And the media, once again, is so powerful and so complicit in convincing us of absolute nonsense. So here we are in 2020 wearing these masks that we've been told that don't do shit. We've been told to shut our business down. Millions of people out of work, millions of people who've lost their fucking business. Yes, a lot of people have died, but that happens every fucking day. What are we prepared to do? Live in an absolute riskless society? But again, going back to the media, they're hugely complicit in compounding this false narrative.
Well, just to kind of talk about the media and where we're at today, I mean, I don't know if you guys watched any of that Chris Wallace interview with Bill Gates. The big headlines, of course, were that Bill Gates is now saying that the China travel ban actually exacerbated COVID-19 in America because 40,000 people came here and we didn't rightly quarantine them once they got back from China. All a farce, all a myth, all unprovable, all no data sets, all just hearsay. But then in the same breath, the guy talks about how, Africa needs to eradicate polio by taking more of his vaccine. In the very same month, he is outed as funding the vaccines that are causing the polio outbreaks, not only in the Sudan. So the headline's the Sudan, but when you start reading it, it's like, oh, wait, no, it's Angola, it's the Congo, it's Nigeria, it's Zambia. Oh, we've gotten it in Pakistan and Afghanistan. Well, I thought that number one, polio's been gone forever, and number two, guys, it's settled science that there are no adverse side effects to such vaccines, and Bill Gates is our benevolent overlord. What the fuck are we complaining about?
Well, I'm not complaining about anything because I just took a break from celebrating the landslide victory of Bill Gates becoming the head of our world fucking health policy. You know what I mean? When did this happen? I know it sounds corny now, but he can't even stop viruses on his fucking computer operating systems. But yet he's gonna tell us what. I mean, I don't. This is again part of the inversion of reality. That's like.
But here's the thing: it's like we talked about before. I brought this up before. Throughout history, there have been 4 groups of the most powerful people. In the beginning of civilization, so to speak, before the great floods and all the lost history, the lost civilizations, all that sort of stuff. What most of the world understands as true human history, after those floods and things, the foremost powerful people, the groups were conquerors first, then religious leaders, then presidents of nations, and now it's CEOs of multinational corporations. And that's why George Soros can do whatever the hell he wants. That's why Kissinger can do whatever the hell he wants. That's why Gates can tell us how we're going to live our lives from now on, because he's more powerful now than leaders of nations. And that's how we've gotten to this point, and that's how we're going to end up, if we don't stop it, in the technocracy, in the social point system, total control, surveillance, everything else. So, look, again, this whole thing, there's no way to stop it, in my mind, unless it all comes crashing down. And I go back to Einstein's quote that says, I don't know what World War III will be fought with, but I know that World War IV will be fought with sticks and stones.
I've always heard that. But again, in my opinion, if you know their name, they're not running shit. President of any country, Bill Gates, Fauci, they're just frontmen. They're the Michelin man, for fuck's sake. They're not really running shit. They're really at the behest of these individuals who we probably don't know their names, but they are still slowly but surely implementing this eugenics-based, technocratic, transhumanist authoritarian agenda that's been in place for a very fucking long time. You could get into the boiling frog, slow and steady, but again, they do their shit in not just small increments. They stretch their shit out. Their agenda is generational.
Okay, so my question is to both of you guys, please break this down for me. Newt Gingrich is on, and he's the first guy. We've been calling out Soros and everything else for a long time. Many people have. Many people are aware of it now, what Soros is doing. Very few are truly aware of what Kissinger is doing on the other side to direct and fund and be the puppet master on the other side of things, driving that left-right paradigm, the funding, all the chaos, the hate group, this, that, whatever, right? So, but Gingrich is on Fox News, and he calls out Soros for funding, the riots, for politicians, for doing all these things, and all of a sudden Fox News pulls the plug on him. They freak out, and they're like, we need to move on. Whoa.
Well, yeah, the girl was like, there's no reason to bring up George Soros in this conversation. And Newt was like, what? He paid for it.
But there was a reason that this all took place. There's a reason for everything, right? What I want to know, if your thoughts on this are, was that organic? Did Newt Gingrich finally bring it up, have the balls to say something? Or was this, Newt, you need to bring this up and we need Fox News to do this? For what reason? Is that a distraction from those that are above Soros? That's what I'm saying.
I would say this. So I watched it, and I actually talked to Robbie Martin about it, and they addressed it the next day on Fox, because it wasn't just, they said you don't need to bring up Soros's name. Someone else chimed in, and they're like, yes, I have to agree. Everything was really awkward. Everybody stopped. He said, okay. There was dead air time on television, which you never see. And I want to make it clear, I don't think Newt Gingrich is a great guy. I mean, just like you said, that false left-right paradigm. This guy's a PNAC guy. This was a full-board war on terror guy. And he's a Bohemian Grover. He's very much in that right-wing establishment, or what I like to call the predator classes, middle class, because they actually call that class of people their middle class in the Bohemian Grove annals. And I think that, Soros has kind of got his own, techno side. I think with the news organizations, the NGOs, just like Bill Gates is funding a lot of journalism, so is George Soros on each side. And those pundits know where their bread is buttered. That's not a full-time gig for them. They're thinking to themselves, man, I want to get that $60,000 a year analyst job here where I only have to pop in. I'm not going to speak out against the guy who funds a quarter of it or half of it or any. So I do think it was an organic moment, and I think it does show, as fake as the left-right paradigm is, there are these battlegrounds, right? There is this infighting for whose perspective is going to shine, I guess, in this new world order, in this globalist agenda. You know, what ideal sets are going to take control and who's going to power those ideal sets. Will it be the neocons or will it be Soros and his band of Antifa?
Well, and that extends into, like, again, this next phase of this technocracy, this whole new shift of this reset we're about to have as they get rid of the dollar. Oh, my God, at my local convenience store, they don't have enough coins. I mean, this is clearly a shift towards getting rid of cash. And then, you know, you have your Internet of Things on our way. They're scorching the earth in these big cities so they can build from the ashes these smart cities. Same as we talked about for years on on our show. You know, if you've seen the movie Judge Dredd, you know, I mean, they scorch the earth and they push everybody in these mega cities. Which is essentially Agenda 21. And just happening right before our eyes, man.
Well, but here's the thing. Here's the thing that you know, where people need to wake up. You know, as far as Soros goes, maybe he's ready to be sacrificed, right? He's 850 years old. Methuselah, he just passed Methuselah's last birthday, right? So maybe it's time to forget about him and start targeting Soros Jr., right? His son. Start paying attention to that generation and start getting after those guys and putting the microscope on them. And then when we get to the digital currency setup, we have to understand that a little storm called a derecho hit the Midwest here and destroyed power for millions of people throughout Iowa, Illinois, other states here in the Midwest. It was an inland hurricane. I've never seen anything like it. I've faced storms during my fight career for well over a decade. I've seen numerous storms, filmed numerous storms and tornadoes.
That was a storm chaser.
Yeah. So I've never seen anything like it, though. But the point is, it took out power for weeks and weeks and weeks. There are people who still don't have power. How the hell are they supposed to use digital currency when gas stations are out? You can't get money out of your. You can't do anything. You can't buy anything if you're into digital currency, and everything gets wiped out.
Well, yeah, whether it's a storm or, I mean, the more dependent you are on that digital, the more dependent you are on that,
millions.
What if it's an EMP even?
Yeah, China detonates an EMP. Everybody in America starves to death. We can't buy anything. We can't get gas. We can't go anywhere. Nothing. We sit in our houses and we eat the last of our food that isn't rotten because our refrigerator's not working anymore. We can't go buy more. We can't fill our car up with gas to go to the grocery store. And even if we could, nothing's working at the grocery store, so everything's rotten over there. And the registers don't work. You can't buy anything. So, well, we're all going to starve. That's the point that I'm trying to make with this: is fuck digital currency.
Well, and let me ask you, Pat, and Jason, your audience, and I've seen this hashtag a lot lately, hashtag blackout. So I don't know how it's supposed to manifest. I don't know if this is one of those like subtle predictive programming things in that they keep talking about blackout, 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 and then it eventually comes. Have you guys heard anything about hashtag blackouts?
I have not. I've not seen it. I mean, I remember the Days of Darkness thing when this first started, etc. I think that there are a lot of problems with the digital currency, that obviously being one of them, right? But they're just going to sell you on 5G technology and a way to, get power to your phones where you'll be able to get services. They'll sell you on the digital utopia, man. They've already tried. I mean, we're already seeing the transhumanism stuff with, while this is all going on, Elon Musk rolling out pigs with brain chips and telling you how cool this is going to be and how awesome it is. Meanwhile, it's all in the DARPA paperwork over the last 30 to 40 years, and there's nothing new about it. I kind of want to shift gears into this OPCW cover-up and WikiLeaks because right now Assange is on trial. And the last vestiges of any free speech in this country and possibly around the world lie in this trial where we're trying to extradite an Australian citizen for not only exposing war crimes over the last wars generation, aka Afghanistan, Iraq, but his organization WikiLeaks are the ones that exposed there was no chemical attack in Douma in Syria 2.5 years ago. And for those whistleblowers coming out, giving those documents to WikiLeaks, what happened? They were basically just totally eviscerated in the media when they even covered it. That shows how important this is today. Even Trump before this, I was watching him in Ohio. He's talking about the military-industrial complex. He's talking about how hard it is to get out of wars. He's like, yeah, I left him in Syria for the oil. You can tell me I'm a bad person for it, but we're going to take it. I mean, even there, he knows we shouldn't be there. He has to know by now this is a false flag in Syria if he wasn't questioning it in the beginning, as there was no chemical attack. And we still somehow get the oil. He's bringing Assange over. It's his Department of Justice. And we're taking the goods. And yet, this is probably, and this isn't me being ironic or sarcastic, he's probably the least militarized president we've seen in a generation.
Yeah, he hasn't started any new wars. And, you know, on your point as far as the chemical attack in Duma, look, Jeff and I called that out the minute it happened. We said, okay, look, even if Assange was an evil person, where Jews, Christians, and Muslims have all coexisted in Syria for many, many centuries. We've, that's the thing that people don't understand. They've been presented, the sheep of America believe that Assange is an evil man who would gas his own people.
You're talking about Assad, not Assange. You're talking about Assad. Yes.
Yeah. Sorry,
Yeah.
Assad. So, but here's the thing: Trump makes the announcement on the news that he wants to pull all of our troops out of Syria. And the day after it, there's a chemical attack on Syrian people, and the UN and everybody else starts blaming Assange for doing this. Assange is not an idiot. He wouldn't have done
Assad.
Assange.
I know it's easy to slip into that trap there.
Sorry, you guys got me going. But Assad, why would Bashar al-Assad sit there in his palace and go, Trump wants to pull all of his troops out of my country. That son of a bitch, I'm going to gas a bunch of my own citizens,
Right.
so that they try and kill me. They're going to bomb my palace and kill me. And Americans believe the shit that the media sees. This is the stuff that I'm talking about. I mean, we even had Chris Canto-Paranto on, and we talked in depth. He was on the ground when Christopher Stevens and Woods, Tyron Woods, and the other guys, the Navy SEALs and Ambassador Stevens' assistant, were killed on the ground there during that terrorist attack, when Hillary Clinton would not allow any help to go into those guys, because it was our belief. Canto-Paranto basically said, yes, we were running weapons through Benghazi to ISIS, and we had called that years before that. It was very, very clear, very, very obvious. John McCain going over there and posing with the Free Syrian Army that was technically ISIS. But the point is guys, I have no idea how high I have kept my sanity, knowing that so many tens of millions of my fellow Americans actually believe the shit they're being fed on this stuff.
Yeah, it's quite frustrating. I mean, going back to what you're saying about Assange, man, I have my issues with Assange, so to speak, but it almost takes you back. They didn't do this to Daniel Ellsberg, but it's just like, with Daniel Ellsberg back in the Vietnam War and the Pentagon Papers talking about, the My Lai massacre and some of these atrocities that had happened during war. And then you fast forward how many years, you got Assange talking about, I think the video was called Collateral Murder, I think it was. I mean, it was just absolutely insane, some of the stuff that he was unlocking. But it seems like nothing ever happens. Not necessarily it's obviously something has happened with Assange who was reported, but nothing ever happens when they talk about the same narrative of, the atrocities of war. Nothing happened with the fucking My Lai massacre and the
Now, Jeff, you're wrong. Things do happen. There are Senate hearings, no questioning that go on.
To the best of my recollection, I do not recollect this incident here. But again, we talked about it in Burma. I mean, the lack of accountability is just beyond frustrating. So, you want to demonize an Assange while letting, just literally war crimes just be allowed to take place without any measure of accountability. It's absolutely frustrating.
It's more than frustrating. And again, when you can take somebody else's citizen, pull him over here, and then really bring him into a kangaroo court that has, let me repeat this one, 100% conviction rate, you're not going to get a fair trial. Everybody who has went up against this court has lost, has lost. And remember, they tried to paint him up to you as a racist. They're trying to paint him up to you as a cyber terrorist. They're trying to paint him up to you as an agent of Russia. And what he really is somebody who had a long track record of publishing only real documentation that included proof of the rape of children in front of their parents during the war on terror in black sites like Abu Ghraib. And nobody talks about that, and they need to. And it's an atrocity that we're going after that guy. And if he comes over here and we prosecute him under those 17 indictments, that is not only the end of free speech in this country, but the world. And we're starting to see the first world slip into that with what's happening in Australia, guys. And this is something that has not been reported on in the United States. So it's kind of the next story I want to talk about with you. The fact that now in a first world nation, you can't even talk about peaceably assembling and protesting outright tyranny without them not only coming to knock on your door to warn you, but knock down your door and arrest you. What are you guys' thoughts?
And it sounded like the charge that the cop said was incitement. If you're talking about the pregnant woman who's like, I have an ultrasound in an hour. Mm-hmm. Hey, dude, imagine being the fucking husband standing there watching your pregnant wife being treated that way and arrested while she's in her pajamas. And you know what I mean? Like that's pushing people to the edge. But the fact that she was arrested for making a Facebook post and charged with incitement is such a dangerous precedent. And we're seeing it going on around the world, whether it's, whether people are getting pinched. The guy in Milwaukee, he had literally a crowd of people around his house. He had a shotgun or whatever, and he got arrested. The McCloskeys, they get charges on them. The fact that it's being demonized to protect yourself, to do what you would normally do in any measure of situation to protect your family, your home, your right to life, liberty, and pursuit of happiness. These individuals who've already done shady shit, burned shit down, shot people, killed people, you're supposed to wait till they encroach on you, because if you encroach on them, you're being, you're demonized. And again, imagine the fathers who have to make that decision of like, I'm going to protect my family, but if I do, I could be arrested. And then my family is here completely vulnerable without me. I mean, we are living in such fucking insane times. And I hate to keep using this refrain, the inversion of reality that we're seeing right now.
Well, the Omaha business owner who was being attacked and his business was being attacked protected himself and killed one of the Black Lives Matter people. And he got charged with murder, and then he committed suicide because of it.
Did he though? Let's talk about that. Did he? I saw.
Either way.
Well, but that's what we are seeing. I'm telling you, Operation Phoenix. I think they have hundreds of millions of dollars. They are going to create certain death squads, if you will. I've heard about them looking at Google Maps, looking at who has a pool, who has a Trump sign in front of their thing. And, this guy just put a target on his back by actually fighting back. And then, I saw a meme the other day, like, don't worry, this is whatever it is, meme was like, don't worry, you're never going to find the body. You know what I'm saying? That certain lines are being crossed. And this guy didn't, in my humble opinion, this gentleman did not kill himself.
Right, and that's very possible. But I'm saying that there are massive human rights violations going on in this country, Australia, around the world, where scores and scores and scores of people are committing suicide. They're losing their homes, losing their businesses, everything they've worked for in their lives. It has to be stopped. And look, this is why. I'm flat out just stating it. Why I'm alleviating myself of quite a bit of my debt and moving into a beautiful farmhouse that's ready to be updated and everything else, be able to put solar, everything else. It's got a well, take care of myself, have a greenhouse, a chicken coop, all that sort of stuff, fence it in with a 6-foot cyclone fence and put concertina wire on top of it if I have to. But inside of that fence is going to be 240-pound Kangal dogs, the only dog on the planet that can kill mountain lions by themselves. And I'll probably have 4 or 5 of those son of a bitches. And if you get past my Kangals and you get past my guns, then you can have whatever the hell I have. There's gonna be a lot of bodies if you're trying to get past those animals and my guns.
There's gonna be a lot of slow singing and flower bringing if my burglar alarm starts ringing. Little BIG for you.
Oh, I love the pack of dogs idea. But yeah, no, again, I love the country, and that's kind of one of the reasons that, Midwest was where I was looking hard. It seems to be the only place that people are fighting back during this COVID 1984. South Dakota, Iowa. You saw the people in Idaho try to fight back. They actually had their Congress say, yeah, we need to end these lockdowns. And then the Senate turns around the next day and stabs them in the back and shoots it down. My question before we move on to another subject, is that what we need to start doing, especially in light of these elections? If things go too crooked on November 3rd, do we simply need to gather in mass and then charge our Capitol buildings during these local halls of government and let our local congressmen know and let our state senators know that if they're not going to represent us, they can leave and we'll just take it over mob style?
Well, the government needs to understand, first off, that their power is an illusion. It is only what we give them, right? And that was proven in the situation with myself and Michael Nunn's fight. And I'll just go ahead and say it. There's a new athletic commission here. But 2 weeks before our fight, the athletic commission, this is the first time I've said it publicly, but I'm going to say it. Because this will give you an example of how the power of government is a total illusion. I'm one guy, and I was able to change the way this all went down. 2 weeks before the fight was going to go down, my former manager called me, who was promoting the show, and he said, the head of the athletic commission is talking about shutting this whole thing down. And I said, okay, deliver this message to him. And I said, I've already got two friends with 1,500 acre farm that are willing to have the show on their farm. I will make sure that all my friends, my veteran friends, will be guarding the property. No athletic commission members will be allowed in. Nobody that could potentially stop it will be allowed on the property. But we will allow the media in. And we will make it very clear to the public that this was not a sanctioned event, that we made a lot of money off this event, and we did not need the athletic commission, and we went ahead and did it without your consent. In fact, you told us we couldn't do it, and we did it anyway. And my manager said, "Are you sure you want me to tell him that?" And I said, 100%, tell him. So about 15 minutes later, he called me back and said, "Show's back on." So that's one guy calling their bluff and telling them, this is what's going to go down if you try to stop this. And I'm going to make sure that the world knows that your power does not exist because I just took it from you.
Yes.
And they went ahead and took the money, just like all these people are giving up their freedom for a $600 check. That's what the athletic commission did. Now that's the old guard. There's a new athletic in place. So I'm not blaming them, but I'm just telling you right now, that's basically the way that all went down. So Americans need to understand that they can take back the power anytime they want.
Well, and that kind of goes back to what I was saying before and how this has been a slippery slope these many, many years on these different erosions of freedoms and the things that we've allowed because of, quote unquote, this invisible enemy, whether it's Islamic fundamentalism or now COVID. Look at where we're at, man. Millions out of work, millions small businesses gone, suicides through the roof. I mean, the things we've been willing to give up for something that we 99% survive, it's insane. Again, the inversion of fucking reality. And again, the media is a huge part of it.
That's the thing. I got kicked off Facebook for 30 days. I'm on my 20. I've got 23 days left.
Good for you. It's not your first.
So I made a comment. Somebody had to have reported me. I made a comment that basically said, imagine that, destroying the economy of the United States, all for a virus that's nearly 100% survivable. And I got suspended for 30 days for that.
And it's factually true.
I know. That's what's so crazy.
It doesn't matter anymore. I with the fact checking and all this, I had this hit piece written about loose change in Esquire, and I taped the interview with the interviewer. It was the only reason I did it. And basically he promised to come on the show if I didn't put the interviews out, and I waited. So I did. I kept my word. And he comes on, and we had an hour-long discussion. But in the very beginning of it, I go, dude, in the headline, you're basically telling them, me and my buddies are responsible for the disinformation or misinformation era we now live in 15 years later. And the one fact you have here about 9/11 is a quote from Popular Mechanics and Jim Meigs about how the debris field in Shanksville, Pennsylvania is only 1.5 miles and not 8 miles, and we're idiots. And I go, we're going to debunk that right now. And I go, your fact checkers suck. You told me the fact checkers were checking. That's the only thing you got about 9/11, and you got it wrong. So on air, I bring up the debris field that's 8 miles away in New Baltimore. I show that it's over a mountain range. I show the debris with a woman at a church in New Baltimore on her table, and one with the son, like this little baby, and a guy in his place. And I go, so now we clearly see that it was reported in local media and national media. It was 8 miles away. No one has addressed this at all. They just act like it doesn't exist. It's 14 years later. You're wrong. Your fact checkers are wrong. Esquire is wrong. Popular Mechanics is wrong. Hearst Publications is wrong. And I put that article on Facebook. Guess what it doesn't have next to it? A fucking fact check. It doesn't have a fucking fact check. And I'm like, there's no irony to you that you put out a mainstream article with clear disinformation and misinformation, and you're telling me I'm fucking responsible for the misinformation era. Get the fuck out of here. Like, that's the world we live in 2020, and you guys can go read that. You can go check it. We'll never have a fact check. And they're not interested in the truth. They're interested in selling narratives, and almost on base childhood levels, which moves on to my next story.
Well, before you move on,
Yep.
And now it's been made legal. Part of what you're saying is because it's been made legal to propagandize the U.S. citizen. Period. The end.
Yeah, a lot of people
So
don't know.
you never
that.
know what the fuck is real because now they can and they've already been doing it, but now they can legally lie to you.
Well, if
Absolutely.
the media, the only thing that's even remotely accurate about the mainstream media is the weather, and that's half right half the time.
So, to kind of just put the cherry on top and kind of illustrate the point that media is nothing more than PR for those with power, right? Let's look at the Conor McGregor story. You know, last week, for the third time in recent memory, he's now possibly going to be charged with sexual assault. This is the most mild of all the cases, accused of basically cornering a married woman with him and his security and whipping out his erect penis at a bar in France. He was there for a charity event, though, and he's a family man, and he was going to be there with the Princess of Morocco. No big deal. Now, the media barely reported this in the States. This is nowhere near what he was accused of in January 2018, which is a violent beating and rape of a woman in front of somebody, not the only sexual assault. He's portrayed as a family man here. He's got Reebok commercials where he is a child's toy. Okay, and basically they're saying he's going to marry Dee and he's a sweet lad. And even with the media knowing that he punches old men, he's still portrayed as a hero. This guy is making billions for Disney, WME Entertainment, Dana White, ESPN, it's unbelievable, and there's not a whisper. If we're in an era when we can't out a celebrity or a sports figure for possibly violently raping women, is it all over, guys? Like, is there anything we'll ever be able to tell the truth about again?
Well, I guess, and again, I don't know the ins and outs of all that, but
Sure.
I think, anymore with that cancel culture, it's easy to be alleged by something and have your career over with. I'm a huge fucking fan of due process. And me personally, because I wasn't there, I didn't see any of that bullshit. Or I'm not saying bullshit. I didn't see any of these infractions. I mean, for me, me personally, I want to see due process tease out on, because if he's violently beating somebody and raping them, between photographic evidence, physical evidence, that's going to come out. And if that comes out, the dude needs to be freaking gone.
Well,
But it's
let me just say this, Jeffrey.
In betwixt of that, we could easily get into that public lynch mob and just being like, whether it's not to whatever, my boy, our Sam Tripoli's boy, Chris D'Elia, Joey Diaz, Joe Rogan, any of these guys who just alleged of this and that, and then their career's over. Brian Callen.
I would agree with that.
We got to pump the brakes because we all hopefully are big fans of due process.
Now, but here's the thing. Now, let's compare it for a second, because all those guys, like you said, got kind of jumped the gun on, especially D'Elia, who there were maybe some off-color text messages or DMs back and forth, and then he could prove that once he found out they weren't 18, they were gone. All that gets front-page news. This was buried and has been buried for months. And I just want to read one quote.
I wouldn't say buried. We've heard about it. We're talking about it. I heard about it.
Buried
I don't
to
know
the
how much
point. Let me just read this quote, okay? Let me just read this quote, okay? A senior police source told the Irish Independent newspaper the victim is too afraid to make formal complaints at the moment. By the way, she didn't for a month and a half. So that kind of cuts out. She's just there for a payday. She had to do so from a hospital bed. But that could change at a later date. Now, I want to read the biggest quote here. At the end of the day, there is no doubt that this young lady suffered a horrendous ordeal. The examinations and all of the evidence shows that she was raped and very badly assaulted in that penthouse suite. You then find out, if you go through this thread, that you're talking about CCTV camera footage. You're talking about eyewitnesses that were there with her all night long. You have the leaked WhatsApp messages between journalists that were following around McGregor for over a year, with that and law enforcement talking about how this woman had to have a tampon surgically removed from her cervix.
I heard that.
And you can hear it, but I did my due diligence. Not only did the media not report on it, they didn't do what I did and look up the numbers and associating with the names and find out that Pippa Doyle is a fucking journalist. And this totally matches up. And then find out all these people. So the evidence is out there. RTE, for even daring to publish this, and this is a huge... it's the biggest European news network out there. Just to put out this fax that he'd even been arrested in January, they faced a $250,000 fine. So my point being, whether he's innocent or not, it seems to sure be selective on what we get outraged about. And if you can't even report on this stuff in the States, no one knows these details.
Well, I mean, this almost goes back to the beginning parts of our conversation about how deep the pedophilia, the pedogate goes, the satanic ritual abuse. I mean, like you said, it's very selective, if not non-existent, on what they choose to report on, and the things they do choose to report on. It's, obviously very agenda based.
Well, let me
to some degree.
Let me make these observations. First of all, if I'm worth $150 million, I'm not going anywhere alone, so that I always have witnesses with me, and that way I don't run into these sort of accusations, whether I did it or not. Number one, I'm not going to run into these accusations because there's always people with me who can tell where I was, prove where I was, that I was not attacking a woman, whatever it was, right? But then we go back in time and we examine Conor McGregor's thought process. And I'm just going to tell you this from my experience. The minute I turned him off, I respect his fighting ability, his ability to sell fights, all that sort of stuff. But I can tell you this. He made a statement basically saying, I've sacrificed. I was on welfare for years so that I could train to fight. Goes on down the line. I suffered. Oh my goodness, the sacrifices that I've made, I lived a horrible life of being on welfare while training for fights and this and that. And I'm like, dude, I was working 3 jobs while I was training for fights. Go fuck yourself. That's pathetic. That you think you made a sacrifice by having taxpayers pay your lazy ass to go to the gym and train while I was pouring concrete all day, then going to the gym, training for fights, and then going and bartending and bouncing all night, and then getting up and doing it over again for 4 straight years. Give me a break, dude. That's where that line of thinking right there is what tells me what he's doing to these women likely could be true.
You're saying playing those victimhood cards even then. It's something to be said to work hard to get somewhere, but then to, again, not have to be responsible for your own personal life and live off the dole while you're doing it, and then espouse how tough you had it. I got to agree with you, Pat. I mean, as a kid, I grew up on these things, right? I was on welfare. I was a poor kid. I was visiting my dad in prison, and I always said to myself, as an adult, there's not going to be one moment of my adult life I'm going to take from the government. I'm not going to be on these programs. I'm not going to find myself on the wrong end of a jail cell. And God damn it, I did it. And I'm not trying to pat myself on the back, but it's just this mindset that you can look at the mistakes made by those before you and say, those are mistakes I don't want to take, instead of saying, poor me, and then falling into a drug abuse or a failed relationship or, crime, all those things, and playing that victim card. And, since we're close to that hour, I think that's a big problem with why society is so gullible today. We're trained to be victims. Once something's wrong in our life or there is adversity, there's so many people so quick to tell us it's not your fault and to accept it, rather than to problem solve and find a way out of it by working hard.
Right, and I'm no angel. Look, dude, I've had 2 DUIs. I'm past that shit in my life. I've had great months and months now of fixing my issues. So that's the thing. I have to address it. So I'm no angel. I've made mistakes. I didn't wake up in the morning intent on hurting others. I woke up and was pissed off and frustrated at the way things were going, maybe in my life or around the world with COVID. That overwhelmed. Jeff and I covering every horrible aspect of this planet maybe got to me, and I had a few too many drinks. That's my fault. I'm fully accountable for that, and I'm working and fixing all of that shit. And now I don't get worked up about this stuff. I'm not gonna have trouble sleeping tonight because I can't do anything more than what we're doing about it. Just discuss it, expose it, then I have to wash my hands of it, and I go to bed. I'm done with it.
And I think that, I mean, the people who listen to your show, Jason, and also listen to ours, we've taken a kind of certain hiatus over these last several weeks. We had, I think, Josh Barnett was our last episode, and Jamie Deluxe not too long before that. But for me, and I think I talked to you a little bit about this, Burmese, because I think you posted something when I saw you at the fight. It's like, there's no excuse to not have content. And you're absolutely right. It's just, for me personally, and I'm not going to speak for Pat, but my brain was, and it's like all this is going down. And honestly, all the amazing podcasts like yours included who are basically covering the same shit. There's almost an oversaturation of kind of shows now, but there's people already kind of saying the same shit we're saying. And for me, when we pick up the show starting this week with some of our great sponsors and great guests, for me, it's like, I'm not arguing about COVID anymore. I'm not arguing about the same shit that we have Greg Carlwood coming on. And when he was talking to Sam Tripoli, he fucking said it perfectly. The bingo card of conspiracies has been hit. Everything we've already been talking about, pandemics, forced inoculation, possible arrest, and, being deemed a domestic terrorist. It's already been going down. So my thing is now, as we move forward, what's next? What's our solutions? Because it's not a matter of if, hey, is this going to happen? Or, with Agenda 21, talking to Rosa Quarry and G. Edward Griffin anymore. It's not a matter of if this stuff is going down. It's going down. So it's a matter of like, what are we going to do about it to hopefully come out the other side, better people? Because we're going to see a social reset. We're going to see a financial reset. We're going to see all these resets. And when we said this when this all kicked off, an individual, personal, spiritual reset as well. Everybody's lives is changing. If you don't look at this, all this is going on as an opportunity to get your shit together, not only from an external level and working and trying to pay your bills, but an internal level. Love your family, love your friends. Time. I mean, this is a parenthesis of existence. This time we have here, we need to enjoy it. And, it could be taken away at any given moment. And as we've extrapolated tonight, so many different things are a part of it. These fucking false narratives, and the media tells us stay home and don't go to work, don't open your business. They're fucking with us without a shadow of a doubt. But we cannot continue to give our energies to shit that we know are fucking us up, and we just can't continue to acquiesce to shit that we know is just wrong. Open your business, go to work, man. Take your fucking mask off. I mean, it's with all the stuff we know about, even stuff they're saying, Fauci, what are you wearing a mask for? And even just the number of 99 point whatever it is of survivability. We cannot. A life without risk is not a life I'm trying to live. When you walk out of the fucking door, you inherit a certain risk. When you hop in your car, you could be one of the 3,000 plus people who die a day in car accidents. I mean, it's just, that's what it is with fucking living life. I was talking to my daughter. She's like, what do you do when you're a kid? Like, we fucking climbed trees. We went out in the creek. We almost drowned. Like, we live fucking life. Straight up, dude. I drive by this place where I used to live, and my daughter's like, hey, Dad, that's where you almost died twice. Like, yeah, it is, because I was fucking living life, man. And, even as adults, we just, again, cherish these moments, live in the moment. Keep your eye on the fucking prize. Keep your head on a swivel. Recognize that there are threats going on, but we got to be very conscious of what we give our energy to. Like Pat was just saying, we can't keep marinating in the darkness while we try to stay in the light. It's a hard balance. So again, stay informed if you will, but try to live your life, man.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Guys, I can't thank you enough for the time. TheConspiracyFarm.com is the website. How can people support you guys? What's the next show to look forward to? And one of you guys should, at least let my audience know a little bit about Black Oxygen.
Yeah.
Oh my goodness. Yes, please do, Pat. It's
you do the next episode and everything else, and then I'll do the Black Oxygen.
Okay, yeah. So we got coming up. Obviously, we're gonna, being on your show is absolutely amazing. Tomorrow, I mean, since health is such a huge thing, health is wealth, ladies and gentlemen. And one of our, original sponsors is Tim James, head of the CEO of Chemical Free Body. I mean, just beyond amazing stuff, man. He's amazing. His products are amazing. They're literally changing lives. And then we got Greg Carwood coming up from Higher Side Chats. We got one of my absolute favorite guests, which helped me pull back and keep this shit in perspective. My boy, Matthew LaCroix, where we talk about ancient civilizations. Go to thestageoftime.com to check out his books. I mean, just really gives you that perspective on what's really going on in the world so we don't get caught up in the minutia of it. And I think we're going to try to do a Q&A. Or a Q&A with a focus on Black Oxygen. Pat, take it away, bro.
Yeah, and Black Oxygen, look, I've had quite a bit of experience with being approached by hundreds and hundreds of companies with supplements as a professional athlete when I was a world champion, held the UFC title for 4 years, coaching champion, and then broadcasting. And there's only been 3 products in my entire life that have actually made a huge difference in my life. And I can tell you one of those products was a product that increased oxygen by 20% at a cellular level. Because of the respiratory damage that I've sustained from black mold as a kid, I always had trouble with my endurance. This changed everything, allowed me to train at the intensity level that I couldn't even imagine. I mean, I was doing things, I was running everybody out of gas. And I got all my fighters on it. We kept it a secret for over a decade. Numerous world champions, 95 kids on TV, young men and women, televised careers. Look, that product was the best in the world at the time, but now Black Oxygen is not 20%, but 45% oxygen at a cellular level. I have people just today, look, I've got guys that are ultra runners who are in their 50s who've been running for decades, who are dropping 1 minute to 2 minutes off their per mile time on 30-mile run. That's unheard of. You don't do that in your 50s, right? You just
I've
don't.
seen the screenshots of this too, ladies and gentlemen.
Dude, I'm telling you. And then today, I got the most amazing text. Besides, and I have to put this out there. We do not treat, cure, or prevent any diseases or sicknesses. Merely putting a substance in your body that allows the body to heal itself. Okay, number 1. I got a text today after a gentleman told me he had the worst. The doctors have told him he has the worst case of rheumatoid arthritis they've ever seen. He's had 5 joint replacements. He's tried every single drug under the sun that doctors have given. He's taken every supplement known to man, and has been in misery, horrible pain for 30 years. Today sent me a text, and it basically said, I just got my blood work done, and basically the blood work came back that he no longer, in his blood work, mind you, this is scientific, no longer has rheumatoid arthritis, and he does not suffer from any pain anymore after 30 years of considering suicide. Now that in itself is amazing. My brother, who was diagnosed with stage 4 mantle cell lymphoma, a very aggressive, fast-moving form of cancer, on July 4th at my house, he looked literally like he was going to die the next day. He was so jaundiced and yellow and skinny that my sister broke down in tears. After 3 weeks on Black Oxygen, his white blood cell count went from above 70 down to 2. His red blood cell count went from 91 to 185. 9 of the 14 chemicals in his system, natural chemicals existing, were so out of whack that they were just off the charts. Now 13 of 14 are in the normal range. He now, after his chemo treatments, he was supposed to have 6 chemo treatments. He's had 2 so far. After both those chemo treatments, the next day he's waking up and running 6-7 miles. He has no in his mouth. He has no bruising. The doctors are perplexed. They can't figure out what's going on until he showed them to go to the link and research Black Oxygen. He's going Tuesday back to Iowa City for another blood test and analysis, and he feels that literally in 2 months' time, he has already beaten mantle cell lymphoma in 2 months. Now, on top of that, my friend walked out of hospice. My good friend, one of my best friends, walked out of hospice, 3 weeks ago, after being on Black Oxygen for a couple of months. I'm not saying it treats, cures, or prevents any diseases or sicknesses. I'm saying it will be in a substance in the body that is all organic and plant-based, and people's endurance is skyrocketing, and their health is completely returning. And I had a wife, one of my best friends from high school, went on an elk trip. And they sent me pictures of a massive elk that he got in Colorado. His wife left me a voice message in tears because her husband was in so much pain. They ordered this for him before he left for Colorado because he had to do a ton of hiking in the mountains, and he didn't think he was going to be able to do it. Dude, he not only was able to do it, he felt so good while hiking in the mountains that he got all the other hunters on the Black Oxygen so that they could experience the same thing. But the fact that his wife called me and left a tearful thank you, dude, this is going on every day. I'm getting these testimonials back on Black Oxygen. So go to Black Oxygen, blackoxygenorganics.com/Jeffrey Wilson, blackoxygenorganics.com/Jeffrey Wilson.
JEFFERY.
Wilson.
And honestly, if you want to get the full skinny on what it is, how it's produced, go to a few episodes ago on the Conspiracy Farm. You can find it wherever you find podcast. Mark St. Onge is his name. He's the CEO of the company. He broke the whole thing down, and it's almost, when I say in post, testimonials just don't even cut it, man. Because I mean, from mental clarity and everything Pat just said, it's an anti-inflammatory, it's an antiviral. It's just. Again, you can't say how it cures or anything, but it's literally changing lives. The autistic mother whose child is not cured from autism, but is doing more. It's just across the board, ladies and gentlemen. Seriously, it's game changing.
Suddenly autistic kids are either talking or talking a lot more and leading normal lives all of a sudden, right? This is happening in short order. I've only been doing this and selling this for 4 months, dude. I have got 600 customers right now. And they're customers because it works. You got. I mean,
it's not just endurance athletes, high level athletes. It is for those. Obviously, you got Boss Rutan on board, changed his life. You got Chris Cyborg changing her life. And just for me, I'm not I work out and stuff, but like waking up and not having to do that little walk. I'm 47 years old. I don't do it anymore. I don't do the naps. It's just like my recovery when I work out. It's and mental acuity and just sharpness. It's absolutely through the roof, man. And I hate to sound like a freaking salesman, but the testimonials don't mean shit unless you experience it for yourself.
It's the human existence the way the human existence was meant to be, man. That's all I
For sure.
Try it for 90 days. Try it for 90 days, and if it doesn't work, we'll send you your money back.
There you go, guys. I wanted to do that because, I
thank you.
I trust you. And, I remember having that conversation at your house over dinner, and for you to post that about your friend in hospice. Nobody walks out of hospice. And,
right.
These guys aren't grifters. I'm not telling you to buy anything, but it's definitely worth you going to check out a video on YouTube, at least looking into it, and then maybe giving it a go.
Have a homeopathic doctor look into it and research it for you. And they'll most likely come back and go, order it now.
Well, again, check out the episode that we had with the CEO and his whole history with it. It's amazing stuff. Jason, I know you're signing off, my friend. I can't thank you so much. Your consistency, your passion for all of this, dude. I watch you quite often, man. It's like I need to pick up my I need to get it together. Like Jason's putting out 3, 4, 5 videos a day. But again, like I was saying, I checked out for a little bit because I was, just at my limit, but definitely getting back on the train. Jason, love you. Thank you so much, bro.
Thank you, guys.
Thank you,
all right, we'll do it again soon. Later on, everybody. Guys, that is the Conspiracy Farm right there. Make sure to go check them out at theconspiracyfarm.com. I want to remind everybody, what you heard for the last hour plus is probably pretty harmful content. We're fully demonetized here. The last 5+ months, we don't expect to be monetized anytime soon. $5, $10, $15. It means the world to me. We did not only that interview. We did Mixed Martial Mindset today with John Fitch. We had Lynn Ulbricht, Ross Ulbricht's mother, talking about the Silk Road and the unlawful, unrighteous prosecution of her son today. And don't forget about the Bill Gates video that we topped it off with this morning. So much, but I couldn't do it without you guys, so please consider donating. Make sure to check out all the documentary films free in the playlist section. Loose Change, Final Cut, Fabled Enemies, Invisible Empire, A New World Order to Find, and Shade the Motion Picture are free right here, right now. Thumbs it up, subscribe, share. Find an individual video, DM it to somebody, and have them join the Burmis Brigade. Another great way to support me is through rockfin.com. That's where I'll be tomorrow at noon with an exclusive video, so make the free account right now, and I'll see you at noon tomorrow. I love you guys, and I'll see you on the flip side.